This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
A vast universe exists within and beyond our reality. The frequencies that we can realize with our five senses are but a tiny part of all that is real. Welcome to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Weigant, coming at you from Evansville, Indiana. Our show is produced and carried by X-Zone Broadcast Network and REL-MAR McDonald Media Company, headquartered in Hamilton, Ontario. For more information and to listen to any of my archive shows or to find other amazing show hosts, please visit www.xzbn.net. Or you can contact me by email at Joe Weigant, that's Joe, Weigant, at xzbn.net. We've got a special guest with us here this hour. We have Frater Bob McDonald, who is also known as Frater Meinrad, who is the prior of the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue in southern Indiana. The Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue is a modern Gnostic church in the sacramental traditions of the Western culture. While being sacramental in approach, the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue embraces and upholds the Eastern method. The teachings of the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue are understood to be the attainment of gnosis through unification, amalgamation, syncretism, and radical inclusion, also known in the church as the Golden Path. Frater Bob, along with being a practicing Gnostic and prior of his church, is also an initiate in several Western mystery traditions, a teacher of Kabbalah, a certified Reiki practitioner, and an initiate in the Shaivite branch of Hinduism. Good morning, Bob. How are you doing today?
Good morning. How are you? Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure, and it's all on this side of the mic. I can guarantee you that. We're really excited to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about at what age you began your spiritual journey, and just a little bit about how that took place? What inspired you to go on this quest for spirituality?
I would say that my journey in earnest began very early. I was probably about 12 years old, and I grew up Roman Catholic, and I had a wonderful experience in the Catholic Church growing up, and I have no bad things to say about my time as a Roman Catholic. It was through the traditions of the mysteries of the Church and the sacraments of the Church that I really began to want to know more about the nature of God. I studied the lives of the saints, and I started to study the teachings, and eventually through other family members who had other faith backgrounds, I started to see that there was more to offer, that these other traditions also contained these pieces of illumination, and they started fitting together for me like a puzzle. So I began a quest to attain as much of this understanding as I possibly could. So it's taken me everywhere.
That is fascinating. How many different religions or sects or different modes of worship have you been involved with?
Well, all of the major world religions and several of the minor traditions. I mean, I've been I converted into the Jewish faith when I was 20 years old. I have always been a practicing Gnostic in a sense, so I can explain what I mean by that later. I was initiated into the Hindu tradition. I've taken my refuge vows. I took Shahada at an Islamic center. I've under a Sufi guide. I have gone into the Sikh Gurdwaras. I have practiced in Wiccan circles, in Druidic circles, wherever I could find people striving for the source of creation. I was very attracted to that. And so I never had any sense of having to distinguish between one group or another. I was simply chasing the Spirit of God, and I still do to this day.
That is excellent. We're going to cut away for a break here for just a moment. Bob can be reached at his email address at gnosticchurchdv@hotmail.com, or you can reach him at his website address on Facebook, which is Gnostic Church DV on Facebook. We'll be right back in just a few minutes, and you're listening to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Weigant.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com.
Welcome back, folks. We are here at the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Weigant. We have a special guest today, Frater Bob McDonald, who has founded his own church, the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue, right here in southern Indiana. And today we're going to talk about that and talk about Gnosticism. So, Bob, what exactly is Gnosticism?
Well, Gnosticism can be simply answered, and then it can be answered with a layered answer. So I'm going to do the simple answer first. The Gnosticism is the quest to achieve an intuitive understanding of the nature of divinity, to know God in the innermost part of your soul, to have an intimate connection in that way. That's the simple answer, which is not also a simple answer, but we'll just say it is for the interview. The kind of a more layered, complicated answer would be that Gnosticism is a system of practice that has murky historical origins. No one quite knows how far back it goes. It goes back a great deal, though. And it is represented by a mosaic of various practices and disciplines and traditions that have existed from what some theorize ancient Egypt into the Jewish mystical schools all the way up into, medieval Catholicism, branches of medieval Catholics that broke away and formed Gnostic traditions. We know that Gnosticism was present during the formation of Christianity, and Orthodox Christians and Gnostics butted heads on many issues. So it's just and the systems they represent various facets of philosophical ideas. So you have some Gnostic groups that believe that there are two creators, that there's like this concept called a demiurge, and then you have the Father God. Then you have Gnostics that are more focused on the divine feminine. Then you have Gnostics that tend to see it all as part of a great process. And all throughout history, the consistency has been the quest for the intuitive understanding of divine nature. To me, that's what makes a Gnostic, someone that makes the decision to want to know God on a level beyond the words and beyond the pages of Scripture and beyond ritual, but something deep inside. So that I would say that's my answer, which I can go on and on about that.
And I would love for you to, but we really do have time constraints. So how does, if someone's going to a standard North American Christian church, whether it's Catholic or whether it's a Protestant example, how does one take on a more Gnostic thought, or how does one learn more about Gnosticism, and would that conflict with what they're being taught in their standard North American Christian church?
Well, I would say that I would say that you can find Gnostics in Orthodox traditions. That's my feeling on that. Some would agree, some would disagree. I feel that the nature of the approach is the most important thing. To understand that the divine is all around us, and that we are all part of that connection. And I would say that if one were to say that only my particular way is the only way that you can realize the fullness of God, I would say that they would have a hard time fitting into a Gnostic framework. I feel through my study, through my own experience, that Gnosticism, the nature of it is syncretism. The nature of it is understanding and respecting and acknowledging the divinity in all aspects of the spiritual walk. So if someone's in a church and their leader is telling them that they have to disapprove or they have to turn their back on a certain group because they approach God a certain way, I can tell you that if they would embrace Gnosticism, they would probably have a hard time reconciling that with themselves. But then at the same time, I've known very devout Roman Catholics, very devout Orthodox Jews and Muslims that I would consider very Gnostic. But internally, they themselves had this acceptance in their heart, and I think it accentuated their faith. I think that they didn't have to not be Muslim, not be Jewish, not be Roman Catholic. I think it added something, another dimension to their understanding of their own faith.
That's exactly what I was hoping that we would get to, is that Gnosticism is an addition to or a deeper understanding of a person's own singular approach to their faith and their understanding of divinity. I like that approach. So, what is the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue? Can you explain that to me?
The Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue is an answer to a question that I had in my mind for years. It is a development of a group of spiritual seekers that over time the need for a presence in this area to fit this particular need kind of came about. So the church developed as a response to those seekers that cannot fit into a particular mold. So you have someone that, like myself, I would consider myself a devout Christian, but I also consider myself a devout Hindu. So you can't, anywhere I would go, you can't reconcile that. Where in Gnosticism you find a harmony and a peace and a unity that allows you to be able to develop into the fullness of your, to reach the fullness of your potential. So the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue is here to be a home for people like me, to where they can come and participate in the worship and participate in the philosophy and in the engagement of talking, and not feel like there's something wrong with how they feel or that they're one off. Because I will tell people that they are the intention of God. Their spiritual search is the intention of God, and their questions and their wandering and their at times confusion is part of the dance, and it's part of the process, and it's something to be celebrated. So the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue, the goal is to allow people to develop into the fullness of their spiritual awareness through the acceptance of their natural need to syncretize and be amalgamated with the many various paths of God.
So what is amalgamation and what is syncretism? How does that work within the framework?
I would say that amalgamation is the bringing together of two different things to create something new. I believe that my spiritual walk is an example of amalgamation. When I have been in my Hindu practice, or when I'm in my Gnostic practice, or when I'm embracing the Jewish aspects that I've brought with me in my spiritual journey, these things are now fused together seamlessly. But they come from divergent sources. So one would see Orthodox Christianity and see it as incompatible with Hinduism. And I see it as two parts of one story. Same with Buddhism, the same with Islam, the same with Judaism. These are all parts of the greater story. And through the acceptance of this, I have been able to understand God in ways that I've never even conceived of. But my understanding is only a drop in the bucket. It's really, I would say, an attempt to understand has matured. No one can really truly understand the fullness of God's nature. Anyone that says that needs to start looking again.
Now, I read during my brief study of Hinduism and trying to find out more about what that means, that in Hinduism, their main focus is there is only one God, but he goes by many names. So is this more like what you're talking about with amalgamation and Gnosticism, is that it's all God, but everybody looks at that piece of God differently from where they're from?
It's all, yes, that's exactly it. The way we view God is the way we view colors of a prism. The light comes through a diamond, say, and breaks the light up into a prism. We see the various colors from that one light source. We receive that. This is the same thing that has happened to humans and divine light, the divine current, as I call it. We experience God in the way that we can understand God best. It's the way that our minds can acclimate to the understanding of God. And all throughout culture, we see that this understanding is represented by the culture, the dominant culture of the time. And so we have a myriad of faiths. And within those faiths, we have thousands of unique traditions. So the approach to God is so varied. It's in I would argue that it's in the millions of different paths and traditions and walks and schools of thought and faiths, and this is all part of the one song, notes in the song.
Very cool. I've talked in some of my classes about how if you built a courtyard around whatever it is that God is, and that courtyard was made of stained glass windows, people standing next to each other can't look through the same little piece of stained glass. So if I'm looking through the red glass, I'm going to see God as red. And if you're looking through the yellow glass, you're going to see God as yellow, where a person across the courtyard would see God through the blue glass. So whatever the nature of the real true nature of God is, we're all looking at that through the nature of our own understandings.
Yes, I agree with that. Very much so. I think that to understand that God, however you understand God, is present for you to accentuate your life, to assist you, to love you, to help you. When you understand that, and you understand that this same divine source, this divine current, is there for another person across the world in another religion, speaking another language, to offer the same thing, everything stops being threatening, and everything starts being wonderful. To see another religion being practiced stops being an intimidation of your own set of values and your core beliefs. You start to see that, yes, God's there too. God's
Exactly.
here and God's there, and it becomes a thing of wonder, and that is the aim, in many ways, of my church, to take the fear away from people who experience this crisis of faith, where they might feel in their heart that they want to explore another faith, but at the same time, the faith they grew up with tells them, you should not do this because it's wrong.
Exactly.
And I'm here to say
We're going to have to come back
wrong.
to that in just a few more minutes. We're going to take another short break here, and we'll be
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Welcome back. We are here at the World Beyond Radio Show. I am your host, Joe Weigant, and we are talking about Gnosticism and the nature of God with Frater Bob McDonald, who has started his own church, the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue. And we are talking about referring to God as the divine current. Can you explain a little bit more about that, Bob?
The divine current is the essence of all life, of all reality. It is the thing that turns gravity, the thing that allows us to understand that we are. It is what what we feel when we generate feelings of love, of awareness, of happiness, of joy. The divine current is the essence of all living things and the life blood of the entire galactic connection.
Wow. And I'm sure that could go a lot deeper than just that, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, it is the thing that that manifests in all of us naturally. We are a byproduct of the divine current's being. Our conscious awareness is a part of this great connection, this anything that you would understand to be revelation, epiphanies, all come from this source.
So it's almost like whenever in Star Wars they talked about the Force being within us and around all living things and between us, and by knowing what that source of power and that source of guidance is, we can better understand ourselves and the world around us.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it.
What do you mean by the golden path when you describe your church?
The golden path for me is the spiritual. I call those of us in the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue eternal pilgrims. We are on the pilgrimage to find God. And we, as the eternal pilgrims, the pilgrims of God, walk the golden path, the path that will lead us to the divine source. And our practice and our approach and our travels and our interactions with other people in that spectrum, our philosophical discussions, are all aspects of walking this path. So when I say we walk the golden path, it's a way of saying we live our faith.
And how does one go about doing that?
Waking up in the morning is the best way to start. The Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue can be an intricate pathway, but it's not complicated to get started. All you have to be a member of the church is a sincere desire to understand who you are and what your place is in this world and why. And that will give you the starting foundation to go forward and to learn about the existence of the world, the existence of the divine current, what God is, why God is, and what is your place in that great question. You become the pilgrim at that point, making your pilgrimage toward God.
So if I were to want to start that journey and trying to find out a little bit more about that path and trying to increase my knowledge and my understanding, where would I go for help? Are there any books I can go find? Are there any published papers that I can help me out with? Are there any, what can I do to find my path?
Well, I would say that I cannot say that there is only one book that can do that for you. There are thousands of books that can help you start to achieve that understanding. One is Living Buddha, Living Christ by Thich Nhat Hanh. Another is Be Here Now by Ram Dass. I mean, I could, the list goes on and on. One book I recommend to people, even folks that are not Jewish, is Jew in the Lotus by Roger Kamenetz. These books are wonderful examples of what I talk about when I refer to living in the gnosis and walking the golden path. Anything written by Thomas Merton, Father Thomas Merton, anything written by Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi. The Dalai Lama, his words are a good example of someone that's walking that path. And so you find that, I'm not going to sit there and say only read what would be traditionally Gnostic material. One of those books would be the Nag Hammadi Library you can find online. I would say that you need to seek the essence and the essence comes in many different ways through many different teachers. And there are resources where you find, websites representing these teachers. You will find resources connecting you to other teachers, and it'll just start the path for you. And then your faith will start to customize, and you'll start to understand that God is speaking to you directly. And that is where the first revelation hits, that you are outside of the confines of what someone says you should or shouldn't do. You start to experience that freedom, and that freedom will start to really develop your spiritual potential.
Now, is this where the volume of Sacred Law came from?
The volume of Sacred Law was it came out of the need for people like myself to have a set of scriptures that could be read, that are from divergent sources, that could be read as one book, to have kind of a reference guide. I edited the volume of Sacred Law, I would say 2 years ago now, and you can find it on lulu.com. Just look it up. What I did is I essentially took the sacred texts of all of the major and several of the minor world religions and compiled it into one volume. And in the introduction, I tell folks, to understand what I mean when I talk about the volume of Sacred Law, I'm talking about every set of scripture, every set of philosophical teaching, of religious teaching. So the true volume of Sacred Law is basically the accumulated collection of man's written experience with God. What I did is I took a 600-page book and I put it together as a quick reference guide, if you will. So there is a bit of everything, and I feel that every piece of every scripture portion that I put in the volume of Sacred Law, if you read the book front to back, or in any way you choose, you start to see that there's a connection between what this Hindu tradition is saying, what the Christian tradition is saying, what the Jewish tradition is saying, and I compiled the book that it won't be broken up in as far as, like, it's not a book on, it's not an anthology. It's not a book on, well, this is what the Jews think, this is what the Hindus think. It was meant to be understood as one scripture, so that people can understand that there is a connection between all the various faiths. And through that, they have this something to hold to, something to take with them, just something tangible that they can have to help them as an aid, a tool. So that was the reason that the volume of Sacred Law was put together in the first place.
Where do you see that going? Do you ever see yourself editing that again, or adding to it, or taking away from it once you get the church up and running?
I did. I created a second volume, which I call the Continued Writings, because it would be a little weird to say the volume of Sacred Law, Volume 2. I don't know. I didn't go for that. So I created the volume of Sacred Law, the Continued Writings, and I added to, because I had people that bought the book and they enjoyed it, but they also wanted more. They wanted some more representation of other faiths that they might have felt I didn't represent as heavily as some others. So I remedied that by creating a second volume. Eventually, they will all be edited again, because I edit the book according to what I feel is the need of the time. And since it is a tool, I didn't create it with the intention of it being seen as something that's revered or put on a pedestal. I'm using it as a tool, something living. So eventually there will be revisions, but as of right now, I'm going to keep it as it is.
Is this going to be one of the main texts that you use in your church?
Not really. I've found that in the times I've had with individuals who are either part of the church or interested in the church, that texts and the revelations of God come in so many different ways that I have it as I offer it if someone wants it, but it's not something that's required. It's not something that's emphasized over something else. So if for instance, I'm talking to a Christian who's most comfortable primarily in the Christian path, I'm not going to worry about, but at the same time, they understand the nature of gnosis, but they simply just are more comfortable in what they're familiar with. I wouldn't force them to read other things. I would want to stay within their comfort zone. I want them to develop their own understanding naturally. So I just allow what people come to me with to be what is used to better understand the nature of God. Because since it is all one thing, I don't feel that I don't have this competitive nature in myself to push one thing over another, or say, okay, in the volume, in our church we read the volume of sacred law because it's all the volume of sacred law. So I just take it all in. And because of that, it stops. It's another stopgap to prevent oppressive thinking, elitism and whatnot.
Outstanding. Well, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back for one more segment. This is the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Weigant, and this hour we are talking to Bob McDonald. And you can always reach me at joeweigant at xzbn.net. That's Joe, WEIGANT, at xzbn.net. You can reach our guest at gnosticchurchdv@hotmail.com. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Please stick around.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X-Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, an author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randle. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Welcome back to the World Beyond Radio Show. I'm your host, Joe Weigant, and we're discussing Gnosticism and the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue, and we are talking with our special guest this hour, Bob McDonald. So, Bob, do you feel there is an upswing in the number of people who are practicing Gnosticism or accepting the philosophies of Gnosticism, or is this something that most people don't know about?
I think you see a increase in the number of people that are embracing interfaith activity and interfaith behaviors, so to speak. You have Christians that are going to Buddhist centers to meditate. You have Jews that are engaging in Sufi practices. You have just a variety of examples of how the old strictures of the past are are slowly giving way to this new, what I consider Gnostic approach of understanding God. So I feel like while Gnosticism in the word, people that say I am a Gnostic, I feel that that's a pretty pretty moderate number. I think that the practice of Gnosticism is starting to gain a lot of momentum. More and more, you see this inclusionary behavior. So I think that as Gnostics make themselves available to the people as a place that they can go to, the church they can go to as a haven or a center for exploration, as they make themselves available, I feel that the call will be answered by the people that are intuitively seeking the will of God.
Years ago, there was a growing movement of people who were leaving the Christian church. People who had left their mothers and fathers and gone on to college were not coming back to the church. And lately, there has been a growing rise in people who are checking the spiritual but not religious box on forums and surveys and things. Do you think that those people fall into the Gnostic way of thinking, or are they just wandering about trying to find their own way? What do you explain for that?
There are individuals that feel that they have a connection to the divine, but they don't have a need to dwell on it too much. They don't have a need to look into it too much, and that's okay. I have no problem with that. And a part of that group, I think, fits into that category of where they understand that there's a connection, but they just don't feel a need to look any deeper into it, and that's fine. It's about someone's comfort level. And then you have the people that are very concerned about their place in the creation question, and they are a little maybe they've had bad experiences from their past in certain religious traditions, and they don't want to be tied down to a name because the association of that has some negative memories. So you have that group, but that they are sincere seekers, and that they are in a way pilgrims exploring and questing down the golden path. So I would say that they have the tendencies, Gnostic tendencies, and they have the will and the desire to know more about it. Sometimes it leads them into other paths. It leads them into Hinduism or Judaism or other forms of even Christianity that they may not have explored before, and that's also part of the golden path. That's fine. And then some people that simply just want to accept everything, and that they don't want to be tied down to a name. Again, that's fine too. There's no rights and wrongs in the question of God. It's just understanding.
So when one goes about practicing Gnosticism, as a daily practice, would a person say, okay, today I'm going to concentrate on some Sufi passage, and then tomorrow I plan on practicing, the 8 paths of Buddhism, and the next day after that I plan on practicing, some piece of the Roman Catholic tradition, or is it a blending of all the traditions, or does one, decide one day to the next how they're going to approach their practice with God?
For instance, in the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue, our corporate worship, that means the worship that we perform when we're in a group setting, has been agreed on to be part of the Western esoteric tradition. We tend to have a very Catholic-styled approach to our corporate or group worship. Whereas in private, we also have, well, not even in private, we do that and then we'll get together and we might celebrate a puja, a Hindu service. But we understand that the nature of the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtues worship to retain some consistency for people that are coming in and that don't quite understand what Gnosticism is, and to kind of give tribute to the Gnostics that kept the flame alive, so to speak. We embrace the Western sacramental Catholic Gnostic traditions. Privately, my own practice is at this point just a thorough blending of all of the bits and pieces that I've collected in my time. Some individuals have practices that I think are very interesting that are broken down into, like, in the morning I'll do, my rounds of mantra chanting. For my midday prayers, I'm going to pray the rosary. In the evening, I'm going to meditate in the Zen method. Individuals will do that. That's also very viable. It's a byproduct of the amalgamation. Is that your personal worship is going to be very personal. It's just that in the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue, we also understand that there needs to be a kind of a communal expression as well. And so the agreement was to express communally in this sacramental Catholic way, which is, in my experience growing up as a Roman Catholic, my first exposure to the mystery traditions was in the Western sacramental tradition. So it's very comfortable for me and a lot of other people, especially in the Western world. But at the same time, if that doesn't meet their need, then there are other aspects of what we do in the church that usually do.
So when it comes to actually being in the church itself, it's more not really formal, but more formal. But then in your own practice, you might seek out different methods of expressing yourself to God and having God express to you.
Yeah, I would say that's fair. I myself, have been doing this for so long that I tend to stop. It's not as unique to me as individuals that first learn about what I do or why I do it, and it seems for some people, very weird or very different. And for me, it's become just a natural part of my life to have that Hindu element, to have that Christian element, to have that Jewish element, and everything else blended together the way I do. It's just, for anyone that knows me and has known me for a long period of time, they say it's like they've seen the development happen. And so at this point, I am who I am, right? So there's nothing, one thing doesn't stand out above another. The difference I think that some people have noticed is that within the last couple of years, through the development of the church, my understanding of my purpose has crystallized, so that while I'm always continuing to grow and to develop, I feel that I've been called to a purpose as well. I have a calling to serve other people in this capacity. And the Gnostic Church of Dharma and Virtue exists for, I tell people, this church is for you. It's not for me. And I'm here for you, too. I'm here to help people walk the golden path, and I'm here to help the pilgrim. And I believe that that's my calling, and I feel very passionately about that.
I've always said that we all have a certain set of gifts and skills and abilities and talents. And if we're not using those in the service of others, then we've wasted a life, and we've wasted what we've been given. And it's good to see that you are using your path and your history and your skills and abilities to be of service to other people. And I wish you well on your journey. I want to have you back on the show again whenever we get a little bit closer to following your path in this church and how it's developing and how it's growing and the next steps that you have to take. So I really appreciate you being on the show with us this time, Bob.
Thank you so much. I loved being on, and I'll love being on again.
Absolutely, and we will have you back. This has been the World Beyond Radio show. I have been your host, Joe Weigant, and as always, we are produced and carried by the X Zone Broadcast Network in Hamilton, Ontario. For more information on this show and others, please contact www.xzbn.net. And until then, I promise you, we'll talk again. Have a good day, folks.